What's up, guys? Many of you probably didn't know, but the month of May is Better Speech and Hearing Month. To celebrate, I created a video with some of my coworkers from SenseAbilities explaining what an SLP actually does. Now, previously, I've interviewed people who have benefited from speech therapy, but now I want you to hear from the people who are changing lives on a daily basis. People who actually focus on the able and not the label.
Chick-Fil-A, how many chips today?
All right, so what are some of the disabilities or deficits that an SLP might treat at our clinic of private practice?
So we do see the normal articulation and language kiddos, but we also see a lot of kiddos that have autism, Down syndrome. We have some with cerebral palsy.
In adults, you get a variety of different disorders, so you can work with patients who have cognitive deficits, have trouble swallowing, or dysarthrias such as weakness in their mouth or facial muscles, things like that.
Language deficits like an expressive language delay where maybe a 2-year-old isn't talking yet. And so a pediatrician refers him here for services to help him learn how to communicate.
What do you do with a 2-year-old that's not talking?
A lot of times with our 2-year-old kiddos, it's going to be very play-based therapy, whether it's speech sounds or whether they're working on language and expanding their inventory of words. It's going to be very play-based, narrating their play and trying to have them use their words to request and giving them those verbal models while we're playing.
You can work with fluency patients, individuals who stutter. You might also see language kiddos when they're older, like their grammar and their syntax, and being able to form grammatically correct sentences. I love working on pragmatic language. So we know that individuals with autism may have difficulty with language, and particularly high-functioning individuals with autism might struggle with that social component and being able to communicate with others in a way that is natural and effective. And so social groups is a great way to try and teach individuals on the spectrum how to communicate with their peers, maintain friendships, gain employment, and thrive.
What are some other settings that an SLP might work in?
So the private practice, like what we're in.
So you can work in a school, so there's definitely school-based SLPs.
You could work in the medical setting, and within the medical setting there's outpatient rehab, inpatient rehab, there are skilled nursing facilities, there are specialized clinics for depending on the deficit you have.
You can work in-home and see patients in their home, especially if you're working with the little younger kids for earlier intervention. And I've heard of some SLPs who do accent modification.
What would you say is your favorite part about being a speech therapist?
My favorite part about being an SLP is that there's always something new for me to do. So if I get tired of working in one setting, I can always switch over to another setting. And it's like I almost have a completely brand new job.
Yeah.
Working with a different population, working with different disorders. And so I like that there's variability and that you never have to be stagnant in one place, but you can always switch it up.
I just love that we're helping people. That was the big thing when I chose speech pathology as a major, is just being able to help people as much as possible.
I personally love working in the pediatric clinic setting because I get to work with the families. And you get to enter in on a journey with these parents, with their caregiver, with the client on a more intimate level where you see them, for us, it's 1 hour a week, which doesn't feel like a lot, but after you've seen a kid for 2, 3, 4 years, you get to really see them from someone who might be nonverbal all the way to communicating in sentences. And that's pretty powerful when you get to help someone find their voice.
So on the flip side, what's the hardest part about being a speech therapist?
Having that lower energy level if you're sick or not feeling well, or just having one of those days where you don't have a lot of energy. A lot of times you do have to bring your energy level up. You have to force it to be up because you're constantly interacting with people, whether it be the parents, coworkers, the kiddos themselves, or the adults in the hospitals.
Right.
You have to have that higher energy to engage with them and interact.
There's a lot of gray areas that you don't necessarily anticipate. And so sometimes you end up having to rely on your experience and your knowledge.
Clinical judgment.
Yeah, as opposed to, well, in school the textbook said this, you know.
Yeah,
so
right.
allowing yourself to be a little bit more flexible.
When you can't communicate, you usually get pretty frustrated. So you can imagine individuals who can't communicate and how frustrated they might get. So that could be aggressive behavior. So spitting, it could be hitting, it could be tantruming. That's hard, and that weighs on you. But it's 1 hour out of the day, and hopefully you don't have a lot of hard clients back to back. But there are those days where you get a little beat up, and it takes a toll on you emotionally.
But then you do see those negative behaviors kind of reduce once they start finding their voice.
Exactly. And that's the payoff, is that when you do have those moments, those aha moments for certain kiddos, where they're being understood for the first time, they're finding that way to connect with others, whatever it looks like, and they're successful, you are a part of that. And so you get to take in all the joys of that as well.
Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something new about what a speech therapist actually does. Join me next time as I focus on the able, not the label.